Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have returning to the show, DCD himself, Dan Murphy, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going, Dan?
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Of course, always a pleasure.
Yeah, you are back here to talk about Nintendo Switch Online. Nintendo Switch Online had a big expansion pack recently, so that'll be our main topic. We're going to talk about the.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. It's huge. It was a big old expansion. We're going to talk about that expansion pack. It's a lot of rumblings on the internet, on the series of tubes, and also it's about Nintendo Switch Online as a whole. In the news, we got the Pikmin Bloom launched, came out last week. Some PlayStation stuff like the State of Play, their PC division, and Nintendo closing offices, and so much more. How are y'all doing? How was everyone's Halloween?
It's pretty good. Yeah, not too bad. Fucking, went out to a party on Saturday, and that was fun. Went out again on Sunday, very briefly, to watch Monsters, Inc. projected on one of my friends' houses. And that was also kind of fun. But yeah, it was a good time. It was a chill Halloween. I'm glad we just had one this year. So we just didn't even have one last year at all,
Yeah.
The famous Halloween movie, Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, monsters. I mean, screams. It's kind of spooky.
Yeah. I also did the same, went to a party. My partner and I wore our Squirtle, Teenage Mutant Ninja Squirtle costumes out again.
Classic.
It was great. We just would show up. We went to Central Machine Works and we showed up for 30 minutes, made people's nights, and disappeared.
Just like the ninjas. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just only big and blue.
Yeah.
I had a fine Halloween, went trick-or-treating with my son, and that was a really nice moment. It was just me and him. My wife had driven him around to trick-or-treat at family houses earlier, so I took him out in our neighborhood, and I was dressed up as Luigi, and he was dressed up as Mario.
Lovely.
And I just, it was just a nice father-son evening. So
that
cool.
works because Luigi is taller than Mario.
Yeah.
Canonically.
Nice. We did we did a little bonfire in our driveway. It's our neighborhood does a little block party on Halloween. So everybody kind of brings their own beer and hangs out at each other's houses. So it was pretty laid back. It was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a success all around from the Switch Headz crew.
Yeah.
We were seeing some cool stuff posted in the Discord. Everybody's posting their costumes and their food platters.
Yeah, there's some really nice food.
There's some good looking edible arrangements in the Discord. So
great looking parties.
Yeah, it was nice to see. Yeah.
And speaking of all this, we did our last episode on Halloween, and we talked about scary moments in video games, and in particular Nintendo games, and lots actually of comments and people sharing some of the moments that have scared them and Nintendo and other video games with us. So just a few of them here real quickly to shout out some folks. Bucket mentioned Dead Hand from Ocarina of Time scaring their little brother and them having to come in and beat that for them. Donnie mentioned Echo the Dolphin, which I never got far enough in or ever saw far enough in to realize how scary it apparently is.
Same.
The Swerskinator mentioned Yoshi's Crafted World, which doesn't sound like a scary game and isn't mostly, but I guess the juxtaposition of the cuteness with this creepiness on the creepy level, actually, it does have kind of a creepy element there. And one I kind of wanted to mention, but didn't. Ant Keeps Gaming mentioned, I've actually had several in a list, but they mentioned Abe's Odyssey. And I kind of remember that back in the PlayStation era being kind of a creepy game.
All the Oddworld games are fucking strange and off-putting and unsettling. Yeah,
unsettling. That's a good way to put it. And then DCD, you mentioned the little Jason guys from Super Mario Land 2.
Do you remember that level in Super Mario Land? Yeah, it's like the Jason mask with a knife in its head. It's such a odd Mario character.
Yeah. That whole because there's a fan hack of that game called Mario Land 2 DX, and it basically just adds color to the whole game, right?
Cool.
Because it, so it's like it was a native Game Boy Color game or something like that, right? And so I replayed that recently, and I was in that level, and I was like, did they get the license for this, or what is the deal? Is Freddy going to show up?
And then real quick, I gotta mention Summer for making like supercut and some GIFs and videos from our Halloween episode where we were dressed up. Thanks, Summer. That was lovely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Summer.
I'll have GIFs I can use for the rest of my life from that episode now.
I love the Sonic GIF with the vape.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I was Sonic the Edgelord. Sonic the Edgelord, so I just had to be pulling a vape as much as possible. Yeah.
So yeah, we appreciate hearing from listeners, viewers. So please do share any comments with us. And also we appreciate it if you share the podcast online. Give us a review, that kind of thing. Share us somewhere like Reddit or whatever. It's always appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And subscribe and like on YouTube too. And then we'll get into the news and rumors for the week. Like Matthew said, Pikmin Bloom, which is the Pikmin mobile game, launched. We kind of talked about this, however, whenever it was announced a few months ago, briefly. But they kind of, they've put it out now. So I think it's really interesting for lots of reasons. It's Niantic working with Nintendo again on sort of an AR type experience. Basically, I'm gonna try to explain the gameplay. You walk around. And then there's other stuff
for this episode of Super Switch Headz, ladies and gentlemen.
There's other stuff, but that's the gist of it, right? Like it's kind of like it counts your steps, and based on that, you grow more Pikmin and yada yada, and a lot of sort of typical mobile game type stuff. But I've been playing it and enjoying it, and it's my son is obsessed with Pikmin, so it's convinced him to go on walks where he used to complain when it'd be like we're going on a walk. Now he's like, let's go walk around. I'm like, yeah, this is great.
There you go. I mean, that's what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Success.
And I'd love to hear if y'all have anything to say about the game generally, but I also just think it's interesting to see Pikmin. Like it's not Nintendo's A tier of like IP, but it kind of makes sense for this. But it's also hopefully this means they have more plans for Pikmin, this raises the consciousness for your casual person of what Pikmin is. Maybe
I've not played this game. I downloaded it, but I haven't opened it yet. Been a little busy these past few days, but but I will say I say that, and I just played a lot of Picross yesterday. Anyway,
real busy.
I've been really busy playing Picross, but this feels to me more like Nintendo went to Niantic and was like, "We'd like to make another game with you. What makes sense to do for another game?" Rather than them being like, okay, what IP can we make a game out of Niantic with? You know what I mean? It's like, it's not, no one was being like, okay, our biggest seller is going to be like, what's going to be the next big Pokemon Go? I think they were more like, we want to do something. What do you guys think? And then Pikmin seemed like the more obvious answer. You know what I mean? For a partnership that they already knew was going to happen. I don't know that this necessarily says that they're working on more Pikmin
4
stuff.
Confirmed.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like they are working on Pikmin 4. If Shigeru Miyamoto is to be believed, it was finished like 7 years ago. So it's like, it's like whatever you want to think about that. But I think they really just wanted to keep that afloat. They probably have like Niantic's B team on this. And so it's like giving them something to do that's still with Nintendo and keeping that partnership going is what this kind of reads more like to me. But I don't know what y'all's take on it is.
I like the game. I downloaded it, and I like hate investing time into mobile games, and you don't have to invest any time into this. Like you kind of just open it up, you pluck your Pikmin, and you get like rewarded. It shows the map of where you walked and everything. So I think it's pretty cool. It's simple, and it's the only type of mobile game that I'm going to play right now.
Yeah.
Unless if it's a crossword, because I'll play that.
Yeah, I think, and to your point, David, too, this game feels a lot more suited to a pandemic, which I know we were joking about before the podcast, whether it's happening or not, whether people consider us still being in one or not. But like, because it doesn't require gathering with people or you know what I mean? Like it's kind of all about
more
you
single
just,
player experience,
Yeah,
as it were.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see other people's flowers, and so it's kind of interesting to see that. Like, we have a ton of flowers in our neighborhood that we've planted, but I haven't seen anybody else. But we went somewhere today, and I was like, "Oh, I see there's some flowers over here." You know what I mean? So there's a
It's
little
kind
bit
of
of
like
that.
you get to see where people have walked, where people have played the game, and everything like that. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah. There's like a little pond by my house, and there's flowers right around the whole thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's pretty pleasant. I like it. It's like Dan said, simple, and that's kind of nice. Not a big time suck, but gets you outside. Also, this past week, Mario Party Superstars released and has been getting pretty decent reviews for a Mario Party game. Given the last few, it's sitting at a 79 on Metacritic right now, the critic side of that, and a 9.0 user score on Metacritic. Not that we think that matters at all.
Does anything matter anymore? That's the real question.
Podcast over.
Yeah.
This happened a lot this episode.
But yeah, I know that David, and I think you too, Dan, y'all have both played this some. Is that correct?
Yeah, I streamed it this past Friday. Had a really fucking great time with it, honestly. I enjoyed Super Mario Party. I didn't think it was like amazing. I thought it was nice to have mini games that use the motion and the Joy-Cons and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was fun, but I mean, this definitely feels like they took a lot of lessons from what didn't work with Super Mario Party and kind of implemented them, especially as far as the online is concerned. Like the online seems to work really, really well. I had never had any lag. I think on one mini game, I had like one frame drop or something like that. But other than that, it was super smooth. I was playing with multiple people online. So yeah, my experience has been good with it so far. And it's my sister's birthday yesterday. I got that for her birthday, so we can play with the whole family and everything like that. So
It's cool.
Nice.
I'm enjoying it. What about you, DCD? Did you enjoy your time with the game so far?
Yeah, I haven't played it online yet. It's like Mario Party is the only game I can get my fiance to play with me. So that's why I picked it up, and we were so sick of Super Mario Party.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. It was the mini games are definitely a lot quicker than Super Mario Party. And I'm like not used to just using a controller again, but we did the space map, and that was a blast. But the computers kicked the shit out of us, so we're not very good at it, but it's fun.
Yeah, I do like that they, I mean, obviously it's like a throwback game, right? And I'll save some of this for the end of the show, but it's like, I do like that, stars are 20 coins again and not 10. It's like a lot of the stuff that made it like, hey, this is like accessibility shit or whatever for people who are like new to gaming again because they're on their Switch. Like that's out the door. It's like, when you start a game, you're going down the pipe like Mario Party 1. It's just very nostalgic. It's very much a love letter. And it's like, even the bullshit stars that you get at the end, like you can turn those off and stuff like that. So I just think it's nice that they've been listening a little bit. And it's good to see that stuff.
Awesome. And then there is some evidence through data mining, allegedly, that there might be additional content for this game. Obviously, that stuff is always, unconfirmed and take it with a grain of salt because maybe this is stuff that was cut and will never be released, but possible they will give some DLC. What do y'all think about that? I just feel like Mario Party is a game that they like to crank out new ones of, and so maybe don't get your hopes up. I don't know.
Look, if they didn't do DLC for Super Mario Party or Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, they're probably not going to for this game. Both those games were made by ND Cube. They make very pretty games that are fun to play in groups, but they aren't great at supporting them long term. So like I've seen the data mining. I've seen how they're listed out. Like each level has a code and they're like 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 or whatever. And then there's like a 7th, I think, and then one that's like labeled 99. So it's like they have placeholders, but it also isn't like, hey, it like skipped 2 and then it like is the 99 or whatever. So it's probably you just slot those in. It's like it could just be anything, right? So I think saying that this is evidence that they're adding more is a bit of a stretch. I wouldn't get your hopes up. But I do think that this game could use 2 more boards, and then it would feel a lot better than it does already. So I hope they do, but I just wouldn't hold your breath.
Moving on then, Metroid Dread gets a demo. So here we are, 4-ish weeks after that game released, and they've decided to put out a demo. Interesting to see that, but good for maybe the people that were on the fence. Maybe that'll convince a few people. I know it didn't convince you, Dan, right?
No.
Not a Metroid guy, Dan.
No, that's the thing. It was like everybody was talking about it. I had a little bit of FOMO. So like this demo coming out, I was like, yes, I can actually play it and see if I like it. And no, I didn't like it. I just don't. I don't.
Well,
like
that's
Metroid
it for the
games.
episode, everybody.
Wait a
And we're
second.
done. No, but I don't typically like Metroid games. They're like very frustrating to me. And like, I ended up getting stuck in the demo, and someone's like, yeah, if you get stuck, just shoot the walls. And I'm like, that's not fun. But it's such a niche series that it's definitely a good idea for them to do a demo, because there's a lot of people like me that either don't like Metroid or just haven't tried it. And this was a good way to get in, because I know a lot of people that actually tried the demo and ended up buying it because they were just so unsure about the franchise itself. So
I think we know those same people. I was going to bring that up as well. Just like colloquially, I've heard of people who've tried it out and then went to pick it up. So
There were only 5 of them, and y'all know them both. So.
yeah. We know, me and DCD know all the same people.
Well, that's the episode for you.
They said rule of 3s. We're going rule of 4s, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna happen again.
Definitely. Yeah. This is great. I hope Nintendo does this for all the games.
All the game.
Does the save data roll over like the other stuff they've been doing? No.
I believe it doesn't. I feel like I heard somebody say it doesn't.
You can't save in the demo.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that'll do it.
So there's all those save pods. You can't do it at the in the demo.
Gotcha.
I think that's fine. I mean, the game moves pretty quick. Like, especially if you've played it through before, like doing that section again, you're not going to like be tearing your hair out or anything.
Yeah. Well, moving on to a little bit of Sony news. We talked about this last week, but now we've seen it. There was a state of play that happened.
Hold on. I'm just gonna take a little nap.
This was focused on third-party games. Happened on October 27th, I think. I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of a snoozer, like David is hinting at here. The state of play showcase as a whole, like I feel like they still have not found a way to like have the hook like the Nintendo Directs do, with big openings and big endings to kind of, and like lots of little announcements. They do 5 to 10 things, and they are all, maybe if you're, there's a good chance none of them are for you, right? Like, is the problem with it. But there were some things in here that I thought were at least interesting and maybe worth talking about. I don't know. At least most notably as a Nintendo podcast, perhaps. Death's Door is a well-regarded game that is was previously only on PC and Xbox, correct? And is now available on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch as well. Very soon, actually, right? Later this month.
Yeah, it's this month. Yeah.
The 23rd.
There you go. I don't know.
Same day that Masters of the Universe Revelation comes out. Part 2.
Play it on your Switch while you watch the show.
No, pay attention to the show. A lot happens.
I think that notably too, I think, Little Devil Inside, I think that game looks really interesting. It was a weird trailer for the game though. Like they showed a lot of them just like on the overworld map. Right? Like, and
is that what the whole game is though? Like that overworld map?
I don't know, mate. Now I'm like, I thought I was interested in this game, and then that happened, and I was like, I think I'm still interested in this game, right? Like, it looks cool.
I mean, I think the fact, like straight up, that's what I've heard from pretty much everybody, is that the most interesting part of this PlayStation presentation was that Death's Door is coming to Switch. That's pretty much, I think, a universal takeaway from this. I think I will say, as a person who wants to be a fan of the Star Ocean games, but has trouble being a fan of the Star Ocean games, the Star Ocean trailer looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
It looked like a Sony version of Xenoblade, right? Like Xenoblade X specifically. So that's cool. If you're a Xenoblade fan, it's cool to see them kind of reaching out and trying new gameplay stuff with it, because the last few Star Ocean games have been pretty miserable experiences as far as I understand. And hopefully this is a bit more of a return to form of like the original or first departure for the PSP. So,
well, we're not a PlayStation podcast, so we can move on. But is there anything else before we do that anybody wanted to talk about?
Our next story is PlayStation as well, though.
Right. Sorry. Before we move on from the state of play. Yeah, it was just a little quick note that I think is interesting that Sony has formed a specific label for its PC games called PlayStation PC. Just, another indication that they are going to be releasing a significant amount or some amount of their games on PC. It'll be interesting to see what this pipeline is like as this happens, and how Sony fans continue to react to it. We'll see.
You know what's the most interesting thing about this for me is that I follow the Steam Deck Twitter account, and they've been posting just all the time, just games running on the Steam Deck being like, hey, this one's compatible, this one's compatible. It's getting me pretty hyped for the Steam Deck as well. I'm very excited for that thing to come out. And it's kind of like Sony's back in the portable game, because it's like, they were showing like Horizon Zero Dawn, like playing on the Steam Deck, and it's like, this is just like a new PS Vita kind of, it's like, this is like the only way you're going to be able to play Sony first party games portably now is on this device, which is a mini PC. So I just find that kind of interesting. And I'm a huge Vita fan. I love my PS Vita. And so I'm excited for the Steam Deck for that reason. And I think it's just cool to have, people that, especially if they can't get a fucking PS5, to be able to like play some Sony first party games.
Yeah. Other non-Nintendo news here for a little bit. Facebook is like rebranded their parent company as Meta after all this bad press, or maybe they're planning to do this anyway, but like all the bad press about the terrible things they're doing to divide us as a country and spread misinformation. But anyway, the Oculus.
Oh, you mean like selling our user data, using it to advertise against us?
We're going to list 51 ways Facebook is destroying the world. Moncala.
Toy tennis.
But anyway, the Oculus, the VR headset that's owned by Facebook, is going to be rebranded as the Meta Quest, or the Oculus Quest 2 is going to be the Meta Quest 2, which I don't know. That's weird, right? Like, to me, that's weird. To like, Oculus is a pretty well-known name, I think, for VR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so it's kind of strange.
One of the most popular brands in the VR space.
Yeah, and you're going to change it. I don't know.
This whole thing just feels very misguided by Facebook. Google did the same thing in the past like 5 years or so, right? They changed their kind of holding company to Alphabet, right? And then all their stuff underneath is still Google. Facebook's basically doing the same thing, right? It's like the overarching company is Meta. Facebook is going to stay Facebook. But it's funny because like the thing that's staying Facebook is the thing that is causing all the problems. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're going to rebrand anything, maybe do that, right? But it's like, I get why they're not, but have any of y'all read Snow Crash, by the way? The Neil Stephenson novel? So the metaverse in Snow Crash is what the virtual world that everybody jacks into is called. And that book is like hella dystopian. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like almost like a parody of dystopian cyberpunk fiction. You know what I mean? And it's like, I just don't understand why all these people use Snow Crash as like their example on what to call their actual virtual reality stuff they're doing going forward, because it's not the point of Snow Crash. You know what I mean? The whole point is that it all falls apart. You know what I mean? So anyway, I find that interesting and stupid, but they're calling it the metaverse. Yeah.
Another non-Nintendo news is kind of interesting.
Read Snow Crash, guys. Snow Crash is it's a seminal piece of American fiction. Come on.
End of the podcast. All right.
It's a Snow Crash podcast now.
I will start a Snow Crash podcast. That's one of my favorite.
No,
ones.
you won't, David. You will not actually. No, you won't.
I'm not busy at all. I play a lot of Picross.
Sega and announced that Sega and Microsoft Azure are going to work together to create some sort of next gen dev environment. Like, what do y'all make of this? It's, very corporate speaky kind of press release they put out.
The official language is a strategic alliance that explores ways for Sega to produce large scale global games in a next generation development environment built on Microsoft Azure cloud platform.
That is just some blah, blah, blah to me. But like what my mind jumps to is like Phantasy Star Online or something. Like, is Sega trying to like have or cloud? I don't know. Is there anything to this? Do y'all think this is just, it's pretty common for a lot of gaming companies, big ones, to use Microsoft's Azure, right?
Yeah. Azure, whatever you want to call it, is used cross-platform on everything. Like if you play any game that is on Switch that isn't using like Nintendo's specific stuff, like anything that's cross-platform is all pretty much using Azure, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, so this, it doesn't, just because they're doing this doesn't mean that it is anything like Xbox specific. What this does do is create a partnership between Microsoft and a very large Japanese video game developer. And all Microsoft has been trying to do for the past like decade in the gaming space, other than obviously all the gamepad stuff, is find any foot in the door into the Japanese video game market, right? Mm-hmm. So this is going to solidify a partnership with Sega, which is huge. There've been all these rumblings that they're going to buy Sega or partner up with Sega for Game Pass or whatever. I think that this is a good step in that direction if those talks were actually happening before. But beyond any particular game, what this made me think of right off the bat was like Sega arcades are closing like, every week. Yeah. A big arcade in Japan is closing down. And they've been trying to do whatever they can in the COVID era to connect people. And in fact, a lot of these arcade cabinets in Japan already tried networking their arcade cabinets together across different ways. And so for my money, it feels like they're trying to do something with Microsoft right now, maybe making a big kind of game as a service type game that they can put on Game Pass or whatever, right? Maybe in order to build that framework for them to then kind of adapt this into their arcade system in Japan. Because I don't think anybody in Japan wants to see those go. That's such a huge part of the Japanese video game culture. And so I think they're trying to do anything they can to hold on to the last vestiges of that. So that's my tinfoil hat theory on kind of what's going on with this partnership. But it wouldn't surprise me if it had something to do with the arcades closing down.
Yeah. This business release, they talk this partnership, they're trying to build a super game, which tells me that it's what we've talked about previously for Facebook switching their name to Meta. They're trying to build a metaverse. What this tells me is Sega's trying to build a platform similar to Fortnite, where you go to Fortnite to watch a movie. You go to Fortnite to see a concert. Maybe you log into a Sonic game and see some live band play Sonic Boom, or have like some online platform that you go to consume Sega intellectual property.
We're getting more leaks from this alleged WB Warner Brothers platform fighter. Lots of images have poured out on the internet of like character select screens and that kind of stuff, showing a wide variety of characters from Warner Brothers properties. So if you're interested in that, you can go out and find that. I know we talked a bit about it last week, so I don't know there's a whole lot to say here, but it's just that game is leaking all over the place in lots of ways.
I do think it's funny that Shaggy was a meme for going to Smash Bros. And now he's in this WB.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And there's that like image from that Mortal Kombat movie of like Shaggy putting his hand through the logo and like grabbing Scorpion or something like that. Yeah.
Really embracing it. If I'm a large corporation that has tons of intellectual properties, and I know that a new Smash game isn't coming out for the next 3 or 4 years, yeah, there's a gap that's going to open up, and that's I think what Nickelodeon is trying to do, and what this Multiversus is trying to do.
Bring in the deluge of Smash likes, man.
Yep,
it's time.
Do you think the Nickelodeon one would have done better if it waited like a year?
Yes, 100%.
You know, like it's like we're still coming out with DLC characters and people are still playing Smash. Like if it wore off a little bit, maybe more people would have jumped to the Nickelodeon one.
I don't know. I think the like hype cycle of speculation on Smash is what got people being like, oh, like who do you think they'll add in Nickelodeon? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like it was the right time. I feel like if this came out a year from now, it would have been like all the Nickelodeon kart racers. You know, I think it like the Nickelodeon one like did as good as any of them will ever do. I think it's what I'm trying to say.
You hate this game, David. Every episode.
I detest its existence. No, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I just know it's not good.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a fast food burger. It's just okay.
Some closing and sad news here, in particular for those of us in this region. PAX South, which we might have hoped to attend next year, has been canceled, and not just canceled for 2022. They have indefinitely canceled PAX South. They have completely said they're not doing it anymore, blaming a lack of growth as well as COVID-19, which is a bit of a bummer because this is a nearby to where we are. Big gaming conference, one of the
In
few,
San Antonio.
Yeah, one of the few here. You know, when we went there in 2020 before the pandemic broke out, there was a lot of rumblings while we were there that people were saying they were going to cancel or move it. It felt like, and here we are. Any thoughts on this, or pour one out?
I'm sad. I'm sad about this news. PAX South is so much fun when we went. I went the year prior to when we went. But I'm also a little not surprised. The times that I went in the past, 3 to 5 years, it looks the same and it hasn't increased in size, scale, or scope.
Here's a not a rebuttal, but like, why does everything have to grow? Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I can understand it's not sustainable or something like that. Like, if it's decreasing, but like this, it's a problem we have in our culture that everything has to get bigger and better instead of
isn't it just people need to make profits and inflation goes up all the time? So if you keep making the same amount of money, you're actually making less money over time.
Sure. But that, to me, that's not like necessarily growth. It's just like your tickets cost more, your booths cost more. You know what I mean? Like you have the same rough things. But I'm maybe railing against something that y'all all agree with anyway. Like, I don't know.
I think we all agree of like, yeah, if it was good for its size. It was very comfortable. I remember being very comfortable, just like walking up to people and talking to them at PAX South. That's like part of the culture. But like what David said, maybe it is a business. Maybe the PAX brand is decreasing in some way. I mean, we could speculate all day about it.
Yeah.
PAX South has always been like kind of the one that they didn't care about anyway. You know what I mean? It's like all the big groups went to East and West, and it's like it was always the redheaded stepchild, right? And so it's like, like Matt said, I'm not super surprised either. I am gutted. I think like a good gaming con in the South is great because there are so many fucking gamers here. Texas is one of the most populated states in the entire country. I thought it was great that we had one here. I think their reasoning that they've cited falls a little untrue to me. But yeah, it was also such a nice, chill environment. There are people that I met at that like Tetris 99 tournament that I played there that I'm still friends with on Switch, and I've like become close friends with. And every time a new Tetris game comes out, they're always like on it, like immediately. They're always playing like Puyo Puyo or whatever. And the new Tetris game that is not here in the news, but was announced. They're doing a port of Grandmaster. Anyway, you can join me on my Tetris podcast. But
You won't have a Tetris podcast, David.
If I might actually do that.
Snow Crash slash Tetris.
I'm like low key, like just a Tetris content creator now on Twitch. So just follow me on there if you like that shit. But anyway, I'm sad to see it go. I was really hoping to go again next year, especially now that we've been doing the podcast a bit, maybe even do a panel. So it's a shame to see this go down like this, but hopefully, Maybe we'll just make another con. Let's do HeadCon. HeadCon
Something.
2020.
It'd be nice if there was
Switch Headz could create that.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, maybe we're blaming PAX as a brand, but maybe it's the city of San Antonio. Maybe they increase their prices and their rates, and it's just like astronomically increased because Texas real estate is increasing. Austin and San Antonio are growing quite a bit, so maybe they just got priced out of what they have and what they're renting from the event center.
Could very well be that.
Well, in other closing news, Nintendo is closing some of its smaller North American satellite offices. I think they mostly do marketing and that kind of work, but there's one in Redwood City and one in Toronto that are both being closed, which is a bit of a bummer. I think that Kotaku reports that the staff that work there are upset. As you might guess, who knows what the facts are? Maybe they get to stay on remotely or get offered packages to move, but not everybody can just up and move. So I don't know. This is kind of the new world we're living in too, where, big companies maybe feel like they don't need offices everywhere after realizing that they can do things leaner. I don't know. Or maybe it's just
kind of hard to blame them, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you've got a lot of satellite offices feel like will soon be a thing of the past, right? Your home is your satellite office now, for better or for worse.
Yeah. So that happened. And then getting into a news item that kind of leads us into our main topic is that the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack came out. And we're going to talk in depth about that. But some stuff that happened this week that I think is of note is that there was another data mine that could mean nothing, right? But the app came out and people are looking at it. And again, there's lists of numbers and you can, if these people are to be believed, and it doesn't really mean anything. There are gaps and there are, even specific games that they can identify that may or may not come to both the Nintendo 64 and the Genesis apps. So I think it's like allegedly there are 30 something, right? 38 Nintendo
38
64 and 52 on these lists. Of course, again, that doesn't mean that's what we'll get. It just is what's in the data there.
Right. And like anything can change, like if say they can't get the licensing for one of these games, like they've been working on it and they can't get it, they'll just be like, okay, we'll just have a hole there forever. It doesn't fucking mean there has to be something there. Right. But I do think that this is pretty convincing, like looking at the data mining between like this and Mario Party Superstars, like this does have holes you can slot stuff into and it makes a lot of sense and it's done alphabetically. Right. So it's like, I think a lot of the rumblings about this like are pretty legit. And and obviously you see stuff like this and you really get your hopes up and you think about all the games that you would want to be added. But I think that this looks pretty legit to me and I'm no data mining expert or anything like that, but I think that this one at least has a little bit more clout to it than the Mario Party Superstar one does. I mean, if this list, and you can extrapolate some stuff because it is in alphabetical order. And if this list is even like partly accurate, it's going to be pretty hype. And I think we'll add quite a bit of value to the service. And a shit ton more Genesis games will be coming as well. And another system.
Oh yeah, that's right. It does also kind of have another number for the different consoles and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's, I think what it was, it's like NES is 1, Super Nintendo is 2, N64 is 3. Then there's a 4th that's blanked out, and then Genesis is 5, I guess. So it's like, so you have to imagine that there's one being slotted in there at some point.
And then also the video where they announced the pricing is apparently now Nintendo's most disliked YouTube video. So people are happy.
Give Violet a little break,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also relatedly to all this, I don't know if, again, this may not mean anything, but GoldenEye, the Nintendo 64 game, someone has noted, if they're to be believed, that in Germany, that game had been like banned or on some sort of list of games that was heavily restricted in Germany.
It was it was like a list of games that are harmful for children. Yeah. Media that was harmful for children. Yeah.
And that some sort of Nintendo partner has requested a review of that, which again, I don't know anything about this process, but allegedly that doesn't like just happen. You know, somebody has to request it and it costs something or is a bit of a process. So if it's to be believed, then it does kind of make you think maybe somebody's trying to do something with this game. I would imagine it's a licensing nightmare, but who knows? Maybe not, or maybe they've worked it out and they just they're going to add it to N60, this Nintendo 64 thing, or who knows? What do y'all think about this?
You know, if you are going to put the work into any game to bring back, the one that's probably the most worth it is this one, right? I mean, like GoldenEye is probably the most popular N64 game, I would say. Would you guys agree with that? Even counting Mario 64, even counting Mario Kart, even counting all that kind of stuff, you got to think that like GoldenEye is still like the game that most people think of when they think of the system, right? Like, so, you know, as much of a licensing nightmare as it probably is, like, you know, if they were going to put in the work, you know, they were going to work with Microsoft, they were going to work with all these rights holders. If it was going to be any game to put all that much effort into it, probably be this one. I can imagine a lot of people signing up for this service just to play this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What if we find out that the one holdout rights holder is Pierce Brosnan? He's holding the power.
Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, whatever his name is. I don't know.
No, it's Pierce. I've always
Pierce.
wanted to make a band called Pierced Brosnan.
Pierce, I love it. I agree with you, David. Yeah, if someone's like, hey, let's get our Nintendo Switches together and play GoldenEye online. If you could play GoldenEye online, I would totally do that. I would love that. That'd be so nostalgic and fun. I would drink Mountain Dew again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what would bring me back to Mountain Dew.
Yeah, we would all buy this. Everybody would buy the service. Everybody would fire it up, be like, I can't fucking control this, and then never touch it again.
That's my concern. Yeah, totally. I think that's exactly what would happen.
But as long as Nintendo gets their dollars from you, then they're like, okay, cool. You might be having a terrible time with a controller or controlling this game. Yeah, strafing is going to be a nightmare.
You know, if let's do a little thought experiment. Let's say for a second that this is true and that this was on the banned list of games in Germany, and someone, let's say from Nintendo or a Nintendo subsidiary, went in and had this reviewed. If that is true, we do know that there are games that have been on this list before that have been rescinded from the list and then have come out, right? So that would mean that something is happening with this game, right? Now, it could be one of two things. It could be it's coming to NSO, which would make the most sense, right? But also, I do think there's another option, and that's that whole remake of this game that was leaked earlier this year, right? That was supposed to come out on Xbox Live Arcade. Do you think that they might be gearing up to release that on maybe the Switch or on Game Pass or something like that? Which of those two do you think is more likely? Do you think it would be the remake with updated visuals and more modern controls, or do you think they just slap it on NSO and add value to the service?
It's a easy slap, grab and slap. That's all it is.
Do you think?
Yeah, I really think it's probably the remaster.
Oh, really?
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you can grab and slap that too. It's already done, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. It's already done. We've seen footage online of people playing it.
People are playing it. Yeah. You can just download it right now.
Yeah, and that solves, Patrick, what your question was, like, you're going to play this for like 5 minutes because the controls are atrocious on an N64 controller.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree because, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just assuming things about this German review process, but like, why would they need to review an old game if you're making a new game? Like,
because it runs out after a certain amount of time, but it wouldn't be for another few years. It's like a 25-year thing or whatever, right?
Right, but
so it's like they would be unbanning it so that they could sell it again. Is that not what you're asking?
Well, I'm just saying if it's not the same game, then why would they need to You know what I mean? If it's a remake, it's a different. I don't know.
That's the license. It's like the title and everything. I think it's,
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. DCD, are you an expert on German law?
No.
Podcast over. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to start a podcast all about German law.
Strictly this review board.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called Deutsche Game.
All right, y'all. That does it for our news segment. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to dig even deeper into the Nintendo 64 coming to Nintendo Switch Online and all the related issues of Nintendo's Online. We are back this week. We are talking all about Nintendo Switch Online. The expansion pack for the NSO service just recently launched. And so we thought we would talk about that and just some of the general issues and problems around Nintendo's Online and how it kind of stacks up against other services that are similar and past Nintendo ones, and what's good and what's bad, and dig deep into all that. So it'll probably be all over the place a little bit. But I think there's a lot to talk about here, right? So like Nintendo has obviously had one thing that's sort of a big picture thing too, to me, is that, you know, they sort of relaunched their online stuff with each new console, which isn't necessarily true for somebody like Xbox, where they have sort of a continuation. But when the Switch came out, all the online stuff was free for the first 18 months roughly. And then in September 2018, they charged $20 a year with to just play any of the games like Mario Kart or whatever, Splatoon online. To do that, you had to have that subscription. And then the bonus was you get NES games, and they promised, I think they told us that Super Nintendo games were coming later, right?
I think so.
From the bat, but they didn't maybe say when, but a year later in September 2019, they added that, which kind of built this expectation that every year they might add a new thing. And then we could maybe forgive them for not doing that in 2020 based on what happened that year. But then this year they have added this expansion pack, and which is an add-on. You don't have to get it. You can still pay the $20 for all that we just talked about. But it's $50 a year or $80 a year for the family plan. So that sort of gives you the big picture, right? I mean, the expansion pack, you probably know this if you're listening to this podcast, but it gives you the N64, the Genesis, and this Animal Crossing DLC. And the other sort of bonuses to even just the base thing are that they have these every once in a while, these game trials, which aren't too substantial. It's like a week trial of various games, but not usually very big ones. They had that voucher program, which felt promising, right? At least here in the States, they had it briefly, and you could buy like two big Nintendo releases and get a third one for free. That's how it worked, as I recall.
Yep.
Also, don't forget, Patrick, you do get Tetris 99.
Oh, that's right. And Pac-Man 99. You do get those. That's not insignificant. And so those are kind of the benefits of the service. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the overview, right? But there's a lot of issues. Where do y'all want to start, or how do you want to?
I say we should maybe start with like why we're doing this episode, right? And it's like, and you know, we talked about like, we've been talking a lot about just like run a show, like what we're gonna do for our topics, right? And it's like, I think part of us were like, hey, we could maybe wait a little bit to talk about NSO. But I think a big reason why we're doing this episode now is because it really is part of the cultural conversation around Twitter and gaming Twitter and stuff like that right now. Is like a lot of people are really upset with what's going on right now. And then at the same time, you also have a whole bunch of people that are defending on either side. So it's like right now we figured it would be a good idea to just talk about like value, right? Like what we think they should be doing in order to justify, especially this added cost. And then, I don't know, is that kind of like how you saw this episode going, Patrick?
Yeah, I think so. I think let's start there then. I think what is driving the conversation right now is the cost of this expansion pack combined with criticisms of the emulation of the Nintendo 64 games. That's what's sort of big in those circles you were kind of describing, right? So maybe we should start with those things. Like, I mean, and I think there's an underlying current of people just being upset with Nintendo's online offerings. I think that we talk about it a lot on this show, right? Like, I mean, it's funny to me when I think about it, because I think about, you think about Nintendo is associated with like a lot of polish in their games. Like, despite all else, most, if not all, Nintendo big releases have a really great gameplay and they know how to make games fun. But when you think about their online aspect, it's never good, or there's always some chink in that arm. There's always some problem with it. Like,
well, I mean, not even just online. I feel like anything technologically, like Nintendo has never been known to be like at the forefront of tech, right? It's like their systems are always like a generation behind, everybody else. They're always like kind of known for putting the quality of their game product over just the beefiness of their hardware or tech, right? And so it's like they've always been known to like pinch pennies in that regard, which is problematic when you're charging people for peer-to-peer internet.
Yeah,
and I think
some nuance there, which is like they are as long as their tech is associated with games, like the Wiimote and the Nintendo Switch generally, because all of that is focused on gameplay or focused on the console. David, you're specifically talking about online services and technology behind online services and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's where I like too, right? Like modern games have major online components that are such a big part of the gameplay, and I think increasingly people want that to be a big part of the gameplay, and it just feels like Nintendo's way behind on that, or just doesn't ever. I mean, we could probably get to this one time or another, but it's just like, to me, the biggest example of that is just the Super Mario Maker 2 friend thing, right? Like the fact that they announced this game, we all see the trailer, we're all like, this is going to be amazing. And then news trickles out that you can't like play with your friend. Like you can't match up with your friends. And then they're like, oh, people wanted that. We'll patch that in. And it's like,
the irony is playing with your friends is the only way to guarantee smooth gameplay in that game. And like playing with your friends that don't have dog ass internet, like
right. So. And that one of the most fun modes in that game is virtually unplayable because of the bad, not an expert on this, but presumably the bad netcode, the way that they wrote, the coding behind the matchup.
And just the fact that they don't have any real dedicated servers. You know what I mean? They don't have, this isn't going through anything. You're just connecting peer to peer for like the majority of online games, unless it's using like Microsoft Azure, like we've talked about before. It's pretty bad.
I don't know anything about, like that stuff. Like I've learned a little bit about computer science over the years, but the fucking net code stuff is mind blowing to me. Packets and
you're not a packets head, Patrick.
No, like, but like I know peer to peer is arguably, like I hear some people say, good for certain situations, but they seem to use it for every situation, right? Like, and that's one of the problems. And whatever. So yeah, that's just sort of a big overview of that. But like, it is just mind boggling that as online gaming becomes more important, they don't seem to like prioritize that.
The big thing here is like, what do we want? It's Patrick, you alluded to this, is like there's a disconnect between Nintendo, the game company, and their polish and their lack of polish from the servers. So there's not like consistency. So the frustration also comes, the frustration is with us, like we expect Nintendo to perform at a higher level, but history tells us their online services has not been good. But we still expect them to be good. So what I'm saying is we're the problem a little bit, not entirely, but not.
It's not entirely like wrong to expect something like being able to chat with your friends while you play Smash.
Why would you want that, DCD? I have no friends.
Got a phone for a reason, dude. Come on.
Yeah. Don't you want to wear two
devices? Yeah, exactly.
Same joke.
You got to get the Splatoon headphone splitter in order to make it work. Oh Lord. I mean, we just got Bluetooth, right? 5 years into the Switch, right? You know, it's like, yeah,
And
I mean, it's got it totally. And then, I think the reason people are really pissed is because now it's $10 a month less than Xbox Live Gold or PlayStation Plus, where before it was like $40 less, right? And so people are comparing those, and I think for some pretty good reason, but I also find some issues with that as well, because people are like, man, it's so much of like a better deal with Xbox Live Gold, but it's like the games that you get on Xbox Live Gold are like bottom of the barrel shovelware, you know what I mean? So it's like, at least we're getting like Nintendo classics with this fucking thing, and not like, you know, some third party game for the original Xbox that nobody ever bought. But anyway, that's a whole different story.
You're saying like it's reasonable to expect frictionless services.
Yeah. Well, I think it is reasonable to expect that you could like get together on like Mario Kart and not have to sit there and watch a race and then join it, and then have somebody else come and watch a race and join. You know what I mean?
Or be able to squad up with your friends in Splatoon.
Yes, or be able to like do that, like, and not have to again watch a match and then hope to get in. Hope that somebody drops out.
1, 2,
you know what I mean?
3, go, 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 go.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. Yeah,
like,
and it's also like Nintendo is kind of releasing features, but they do so it just like the faucet is just barely turned on, and the drips are coming once every couple years. You know what I mean? It's like play invites, like almost every new Switch game that comes out, at least published by Nintendo, and a lot that aren't, support this new play invites feature, right? Like the new Mario Party supports the play invites feature. Spelunky 2 supports that feature, you know, and I'm still caught off guard by it. Like I get invites and I'm like, what do I do? I don't understand this. You know what I mean? But it's like, so they've done that and they're like, see, we did that. But it's like, okay, yeah, that's one thing that people
But those don't even work well. Like on Mario Golf, if I'm in the game and someone sends me an invite, I'll click on the invite and join, but it shuts the game off and then turns the game back on.
That's bad.
It goes into it. It's like,
but some work decent. You know, like the Mario Party works good. Spelunky 2 works great. You know what I mean? For that, and it's like, again, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just saying it's like in their minds, they're like, look, we're doing it. Come on. But it's the same deal with like okay, here is a difference between Xbox Live Gold, PlayStation Plus, and Nintendo Switch Online. With those games, you know, every single month on the exact same day, they're going to announce what games are coming and they're dropping them. We never fucking know when they're releasing games for these services, right? Like they release them at the snail's pace. And for no real reason, you know, like we said, it's not like the money we're paying them every month is paying for dedicated servers, you know, like we're paying for the games, you know, like that's the value you're getting out of this, and the ability to play online, which is a completely arbitrary thing that they're holding for that. So I get that. I think like Nintendo needs to be more communicative, but there's just been this big problem with Nintendo, and it's just the way that they want to operate, that they like to do everything kind of in secret, you know what I mean? And like hold things really close to the chest. And it just bites them in the ass from a consumer perspective, I think. And it makes people really upset.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of this stuff is stuff that's just feels like beating a dead horse, but I think this price increase, you know, for a lot of people just brings it back up. And I think that's where it's like, how can it feels like a lot to not fix any of this, to not, you know, improve on any of it. And maybe they're slowly improving on some of it, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. Not at the pace they're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so do y'all want to, is there anything else sort of big picture about there? Just, I mean, we've chat on there online enough, maybe. Should we talk specifically about some of the hot button issues right now? Like the emulation stuff? Or?
Yeah. Let's talk emulation, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, they have these old consoles where you can play these classic games. And I think I don't know if this is just how true this is. Maybe some of y'all know more about this than me, but you know, there's been a lot of criticism of the emulation of these N64 games. And it sounds like objectively they are worse than previously released, you know, like for the virtual console versions of these games. I know, Matthew, you shared this, and I had seen some other talk on Twitter and other places about this, about how the person who did a lot of the emulation for like the Wii era and the Wii U era like somebody named Stephen Lee, like they built an emulator that ran pretty well and was specific for each game, maybe even, and stuff like that. And then but they're like reinventing the wheel. They're not using that. They've made new emulators for this Switch version that have various differences.
I think generally what it appears to be is they had a developer specifically there to write great emulation software. N64, it's got a long history of being a really unique piece of hardware that's really hard to emulate. It does a lot of things for like the GPU and CPU. They share RAM, and that's all. And like in emulation, you have to create that from a software. You have to write software to fill in all the gaps for all the hardware that was there at the time. So historically, it's just a really hard thing to emulate. But there's this Reddit thread that talks about the emulation history at Nintendo, that they had one person who was dedicated to writing the emulators for Nintendo. And now whatever Nintendo is doing for emulation, it's not as good as it was before. For various reasons, maybe it wasn't this main person. Maybe they subcontracted out to someone. It appears that it wasn't necessarily a focus.
Well, it's not bespoke for each game, which I think is probably the biggest issue there, right? Like,
yes.
Like as far as who's doing the emulation, we know who that is, right? And that's NERD. That's the European branch of Nintendo, NERD, they're called. It's like Nintendo of Europe Research and Development, right? And so they're the ones that have been working on this emulator. They're the ones who made the emulator for Super Mario 3D All-Stars. And the N64 emulator, at least from what we can tell from data mining, is just that emulator, basically, right? It allows for patching and Lua scripting and stuff of that nature that basically allows for you to make updates to the game, some of which that stuff is in already, but it also allows it to run basically on like this Tegra X1 chip that all the Switches have, that it just plays nice with that, right? It was made specifically for that, and they've just basically done a big swath just being like, okay, we're just going to run all the emulators through this, right? And so for some games, I don't think that it is correct, Patrick, to say that like the emulation is objectively worse on the Switch. For instance, Star Fox 64 runs incredibly in NSO. Like the emulation, I think it's the best way you could ever play Star Fox 64, and that's including the 3DS port, which is also great. And I love Star Fox 64 3D, but like the game runs so fucking smoothly on NSO, and the button mapping, the way that the weird button mapping that's been included in we'll talk about that later probably, but that seems to have been made specifically for Star Fox 64. It's like if you want to do it's like C left and C down are the two open face buttons, right? And like those are the only C buttons you really use when playing Star Fox 64 for the boost and the break. And so it's like, so for some games it works great. Sin and Punishment is another good example. That game runs flawlessly as far as I can tell on the system. And now it's the games that have like lots of fog and lots of stuff like that built into them, that the like higher definition rendering that the Switch is doing, because you have to remember this is blowing the resolutions of these games up like 2 to 3 times as much. It's not running at 240p anymore. It's running at 720p now. And so because of that, a lot of stuff is going to break, and a lot of stuff that was hidden by CRT filters, such as like, texture, like the patterning. I'm not sure exactly what you call that. That's kind of smoothed over by the N64. That stuff is like super apparent now. And I think that's where a lot of this, like these fog issues and stuff like that, are breaking, because they're not made for these smaller resolutions anymore. Now, I'm also not an expert. I've just watched a lot of YouTube videos on this because it's been hard not to over the past week or so, because just so many people are butthurt about this. But as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, like, I think if you're looking for these issues, you're going to find them.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're not, which is like 95% of the people, it's not going to be a big deal. Now, everybody's aware of this because this is all anybody's fucking talking about, because it's like, okay, I'm going to make a YouTube video comparing the fucking every single frame of Ocarina of Time versus the N64 on original hardware, and then this, and then I'll compare it to the Wii U and the Wii and the GameCube one and all that kind of stuff. So obviously you're going to see these little things, but these things happen in emulation all the time. And I just think it's got a big spotlight on it right now because it's new and because it's expensive. And so is it perfect emulation? No, but I think that it's, in my opinion, it's being blown like way, way out of proportion. I think a lot of the simulation is pretty fucking good, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, I think it gets back to the general criticisms of Nintendo's online, right? It's like they're asking us for all this extra money for this service, and we still have incredible lag trying to play multiplayer versus in Mario Maker 2 online. And
yeah,
we can't expect the next big Nintendo game that has online, which I don't even know what that is, Splatoon 3, I guess, to be any better. You know what I mean? Like, right? Like, we can't be holding our breath that maybe... Right?
Let's hope so.
I don't hold my breath for anything with Nintendo anymore.
I know, but like if you're spending that kind of money, like you want the value to be there. And like if the value is actually there, you don't worry about that kind of thing, right? And I think that's kind of what the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
I also think the inclusion of, we haven't really talked about this. Maybe we can talk about this, the inclusion of Animal Crossing's DLC. Like I see how that can really split the fan base in a big way, that like people who are into Animal Crossing and want this DLC would be like, oh, great. Like it makes this an easier buy for me. And then people who don't play Animal Crossing are like, well, fuck that. Like, like, why would I want this? If there was promise of and future DLC,
yes,
or something, you know what I mean? Like
that's what it really comes down to is communication. David, you said this. We know when Microsoft releases games with gold, comes out the first of the month, we know the games that are coming to PlayStation Plus, either the last week or the first of the month. We always know what's happening. And then on Game Pass, you also get DLC. I think Doom Eternal just got its DLC on Game Pass, and it was like announced and then released. And this is just, it's the quantity is higher and the quality and higher in some regards is on these other gaming services. If Nintendo would just like tell us, hey, more games are coming. DLC is going to be free if you're a paid subscriber for these other games or these other services. Look out for more. You don't have to just tell us what's coming. Just let us know that something is coming.
Yeah. Even if it's vague.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think at the same time,
they don't have to.
Well, no, I mean, they should. I think they should. But I think it's like, I don't know. I just feel like Nintendo... Something about, I think this is an NCL issue, and we've talked about this before. We've also talked about doing a whole episode on this, about just like the differences in culture between NCL, which is Nintendo Company Limited, which is basically Nintendo of Japan, right? And NOA, NOE, like all the subsidiaries of Nintendo. I feel like they're hamstrung by whatever Nintendo Japan wants to do, right? And so it's like, I think something happened there where they're like, okay, we've announced games too early before. It caused a lot of issues. We don't like to announce things, and we want to hold everything close to the chest now. And so whatever their reason for it is, that's what they've decided to do now. And it continually bites people in the ass. And I think not only are they not telling consumers what they need to know to make informed purchasing decisions, I think they're also probably not properly communicating with their Western departments, you know what I mean? And it's I feel like there are times where you can feel that disconnect, right? Like between just like how the Twitter accounts are run, even, you know what I mean? It's like you could tell like they want to announce shit, they want to let people know because they're the ones getting shit from it from consumers constantly. But NCL is very, very stubborn and like doesn't want to play ball. And so I just think there's a big disconnect there. And I think that it's something that like Western consumers have never been able to like wrap their heads around. And that's why Nintendo seems like such a weird company, right?
Yeah. That makes me think of two things. One is, which is like, we talked about that state of play not being very exciting, but Nintendo Direct's being exciting. And this is why, right? Because they hold so much. So it's like the other flip side of that coin is us not knowing things is how they keep us interested and excited about future announcements. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing being that, like, I think we've talked about this before, but and I think this isn't limited to Japan. I think it's a business thing that a lot of companies, but apparently a lot of Japanese companies, allegedly, I've heard people say this, want to use things that are internally developed. And a lot of, like we talk about, Microsoft has and other companies have the like Amazon have the corner marketed for online major, servers and cloud based stuff and stuff like that. And if they're resistant to learning from that or to utilizing that, that's why we're seeing such bad online or it just feels like they're always like you'd think about I imagine that when Microsoft is making the new Halo, like they're like the online is the most important part, right? But
It's
you think about
be.
when they're making Splatoon 3, I don't think they're sitting there poring over how the connections are gonna, you know what I mean?
They're
thinking
looking at the shoes.
Yeah.
they're looking at how they can make the number of the game with their bodies.
hours spent on that. Yeah. But I can't imagine they're sitting there trying to
stupid.
Let's go look at how Halo is doing their matchmaking. No, they're sitting there thinking how do we make this gameplay real smooth? And then okay, we'll slap some online on there, right?
Yeah, it's the UI, it's the user experience. It's like, how can I get someone to go to launching Halo to matchmaking as fast as possible and keep them in the game as long as possible? For Splatoon, log in, you see the characters tell you the story, you see the matches,
what the stages are.
See what the stages are, and then you're in the lobby and you pull up the menu or walk to the battle arena, whatever you want to do.
Listen to a bird talk to you for 35 seconds before you can travel to your friend's island. Yeah.
Maybe it's just a different design. It's a different design aesthetic. It's
philosophy.
The philosophy of welcoming you into the world as if it exists in reality. Welcome back, telling you it's like a Disney ride, really walking you through it. But I don't have that kind of time. Just take me to the lobby. Let me shoot some ink everywhere.
Make it skippable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little quality of life. Give me a choice.
Right. And I think honestly, that's the other big blind spot of Nintendo from other than online is quality of life. I think, you know what I mean? They have polished gameplay, but sometimes it's I can't have multiple saves in this game, or whatever. That's weird. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They will never change or get better. And here's why. Because they've never seen any reason to. People complain about it, but money talks. Animal Crossing takes forever to get to your fucking friend's island, and it's sold fucking 40 million copies. You know what I mean? No one fucking cares. It's not stopping anybody from not buying the game. They just complain about it on Twitter. And then all that complaining about it on Twitter is your game is trending more on Twitter because people are talking about it. You know what I mean? It's it doesn't fucking matter to them, and they don't care. And it's and that's not good, but it doesn't matter. Microsoft has to be super consumer facing because because to date they've sold 40,000 Xbox Series units in Japan. And so, versus, PS5's 100,000 or 500,000 or whatever it is there, you know what I mean? And they were losing the console war in the States to Sony. And so they had to up their shit to keep people back on their side. Nintendo has never been in that situation as far as this is concerned. I think the one time they did was for the Switch, right? And they addressed a lot of issues people had with the Wii U and that they had with the 3DS, which is cumbersome UI on the homepage. It took too long to get to any menus on the Wii U. They made a nice, quick, snappy system that looks pretty and doesn't look like a kid's toy. You know what I mean? And they're great, now we're number one again. Fuck it. We don't have to do anything. And I'm not defending that. It's just they will never change unless people stop buying their systems again. They're going to keep the means of production. They're going to make their own emulators. They're going to make their own online infrastructure, not use Azure services because it's not hurting them to not do it yet,
Yeah. Counterpoint. Well, I mean, I agree with you. And I also think that also on that is they're very paternalistic and it's that same quality of life thing. They know how you should play this game. And I think they know how the online for this game should be. But like counterpoint is that they did patch in the friends thing for Mario Maker 2, right? Like, and they did add online to Super Mario Party, maybe way too late. And I feel like, similarly, like this is the most disliked video. And there has to be somebody being like, hey, we're getting a lot of heat about this, but maybe not. Maybe because they're like, well, but we're still selling.
Unless we see a dip in their
what I mean?
sales numbers, unless people stopped subscribing at the $20 level, I don't think that they'll view anything other than that as a failure. Well, because all of this is icing on the cake. You know what I mean? And if they're not paying for it, they don't get the things. So I know
we talk a lot about like because the casual person doesn't care, right? Like, but is the casual person? This is a question. I don't know the answer to this. Like, paying enough attention to sign up for this expansion pack, like, you know what I mean? And do they think it's worth it? Like.
So I have a few friends that are way more casual and they had no idea that this was even a thing. They're like, oh my, like I told them I'm playing Ocarina of Time on my Switch and they're like, what do you mean? And then, it's like, well, you got to sign up for this thing. And they're like, oh, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what I'm wondering. Right. And that's why I'm like, will this fail? Because it's only the people that are paying good attention. And it's, you know what I mean? And then a lot of those people are upset about it. Like, I don't, like when a new 3D Mario game gets announced and it has some problem or whatever, like maybe that'll still sell really great. So who knows? But this feels a little more weird because it's this add-on thing, right? I don't know.
I don't even know if it's for us. I don't even know that they made this thing for us. I think that they made this thing for the people who bought a Switch for Animal Crossing, right? And they got them to sign up so that they can go to each other's islands. And I know a lot of people that bought a Switch Lite or a regular Switch during the pandemic to play Animal Crossing. And I think come this upcoming Friday or whenever it is that the new Animal Crossing expansion comes out, they're going to be like, oh shit,
I can pay for the year. Yeah.
Yeah. I can get, it's going to be like, hey, you can do this, or you can pay $5 more and get all these N64 games and you're locked in on a subscription. Right. I really think that those are the people that they're trying to court right now. I think Animal Crossing is the biggest game other than Mario Kart 8, which I would not be surprised to see a DLC pack thrown in on this as well. I think they're going straight by the numbers. I think they're like, look, we know we're always going to have the diehards regardless. You know what I mean? And then with the diehards, there's always going to be people that are mad on Twitter, whatever. Those sales are always guaranteed. What is not always guaranteed is this new influx of players. And I think that's why they did this Animal Crossing DLC. And that's why it's such a big deal. That's why all the fucking hardcore gamers are butthurt about it, right? Because it's not for them. I think that this is made just to sell Animal Crossing DLC on a subscription basis rather than as a single lump sum.
Yeah.
That's what I think anyway.
And that's why they can't promise us more DLC because they're not necessarily going to.
I think they know that just people dump money out for nostalgia too. Like I saw Ocarina of Time and Paper Mario and I already wanted to throw like whatever money at it. You know what I mean? I didn't think they could price me out of it. And I think a lot of people, our age are gonna buy it strictly for playing these games they grew up with, going to Blockbuster and having Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is sponsored by PepsiCo. I will start a PepsiCo podcast and list all of their brands. One of them, Frito-Lay, and I will eat them.
Lest we forget, I pay $11.70 for this service for a whole year. And next year, I'll pay $11.70 for it again. Yeah. And so I'm not fucking complaining.
I also forget that Sega exists on it too.
Yes, let's not forget that, because let's quickly talk about that, because there's been lots of talking about how the N64 emulation is horrible. The Genesis emulation is flawless. As someone who owns the Sega Genesis collection that you can buy on the Switch eShop, and as someone who doesn't really get affected that much by input delay or emulation woes, and was just talking about how it's like the N64 stuff is fine and people are blowing it out of proportion. The Genesis collection had terrible input delay, and that shit is gone on this, right? The games run so much smoother. They look a lot better. They're not choppy. They have good frame rates, and you can play them online, right? So like, regardless of whether you think that it was worth it for licensing fees or whatever to get all these Sega games, at least they've done a really good job with the emulation on this, and it sounds like they're going to be adding a lot more games down the road if these data mines are to be believed.
And you just added one little detail we haven't talked about a lot, which is that you can play all these old games multiplayer online, which is a weird, good thing that Nintendo did, right? Like that they didn't have to do or wouldn't have been
So
expected.
awesome.
It's really great. I love it. Yeah. Nobody ever talks about it. It's the best feature.
And like what's also cool about it too is like if you're playing Mario Kart 64, you're still looking at the 4 screens like you would on a regular Nintendo 64 rather than just your own screen. So that's like really cool too.
Yeah, I'm gonna totally screen snipe if they add GoldenEye screen watch or whatever.
They need to make a way to call each other names over the internet. You can dissuade people from doing that.
Maybe unbeknownst to you, DCD, you gave us a segue where we're talking about positive things of this service. Like one things that we've always wanted is let's take Nintendo's old library, put it on the Switch, and let it give us access to it. We've always been asking for access to some of these games. We don't have a lot of these games, but this is a good start. Especially Mario Kart 64, as y'all are saying, online. What a treat.
It's a blast.
I love it. Okay, like I get why people are complaining. I get why they're like, this fucking emulation isn't 1-to-1 perfect. You know what I mean? Like I think that's stupid, but I get why people are mad. But whatever. As far as I'm concerned, I love it. I've been playing the shit out of these games. I've been playing the shit out of Dr. Mario 64, which I've never played before. I'm loving it. Been playing it with friends. I've been playing a lot of these games online. I've been playing them just by myself. You know, like I've been wanting N64 games on the Switch for so long, and now we just got like, you know, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say Win Back is a huge banger, but it's like most of the games are great
David,
fucking games.
Say
I will not. I just won't say it. That's because I haven't fired it up yet. But I think that like, you know, I mean, all of these people that are complaining that are like, hey, these all should have been released on like a virtual console would have spent $10 on Ocarina of Time. They would have spent $10 on Super Mario 64, and they would have spent $10 on Mario Kart, right? And that's right there, the cost of the fucking thing. And then we've got 9 games right now. We're gonna get more. Like they've told us we're getting more. We know some of the ones that we're getting already, and I know people would have shelled out for those too. People would have shelled out $15 for Banjo-Kazooie alone. You know, so it's like at the end of the day, like this is what people have been asking for, and now that they're getting it, they're like, but this isn't exactly how I imagined it, you know? And it's like, just, it's not always going to be like how you have it in your head, you know?
So I kind of just gloss over it and don't really pay too much attention. I've been playing the shit out of Ocarina of Time, and I haven't seen an issue with it. What are people complaining about with the emulation? Because like the gameplay is fine, right? Is it, what's the big complaint?
Yeah.
There's a couple. There's the fog, which is the main thing. It's like fog and like texture reflections are not exactly as they were on the N64. But we used to be fog was in the background. Now it's like fog is kind of throughout, and you can see background elements. That doesn't seem like a big deal to me. The other one, which maybe is, but probably only really for speedrunners, is input delay. And I think that there's a modicum. There's like a handful of frames more input delay, even in handheld mode, than there was on like the Wii Virtual Console, or even past that the GameCube remake that was made for like GameCube disc, right? So I think that's the main thing that people are concerned about on that game.
Yeah, and the input delay ranges. It's anywhere from 60 milliseconds to up towards of 120 milliseconds. An average person doesn't really doesn't affect gameplay until it's 200 plus. So generally, for like the average person, anything less than 200 is okay.
Yeah. When you have a slow motion camera on, you feel it.
And like talking about the fog just a little bit is like the N64, due to its limited RAM, it had fog in the background because it had limited draw distance.
Right.
So as you move throughout the game, it would draw in some of the geometry. But now, because the increased resolution, now there's no fog as an effect or fog to hide some of the draw distance. It all kind of just is there and sometimes pops in and removes some of the atmosphere in certain areas of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. And I do want to add that that's not the extent of people's issues with the emulation. There are, I think the biggest issue, I think, for me, which is an actual real issue, is there is zero virtual memory card support. So, for instance, in Winback, a game I have never played and have not fired up. I played it back in the day, but on this service, you cannot save in that game without using save states because saves were tied to the memory pack that went in the controller on that game. So there just is no way to do that. And in Mario Kart 64, you can't save ghosts because ghosts were saved to the memory card that went into the controller. So that is an actual issue that Nintendo should fix, I think. You know,
it's going to be tough for me if Smash comes out because I'm a Jigglypuff main. I'm going to need to unlock Jigglypuff.
Oh, did you need the memory card in order to do that?
Yeah, to like unlock and save it.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but either way, they need to fix that, I think that's a legitimate criticism, but I think a lot of this other stuff, the normal person will never see.
Not specific emulation criticism, but you alluded to this earlier, but the button mapping maybe is a big issue with some of this. I'm honestly, this is an issue with the NES and the SNES ones too, right? Like you can't map the buttons within the app. You can go to the system-wide remapping and remap buttons, I guess, but that's like a stupid way to do this because then you're stuck with that at the system level. But
Absolutely.
Like in this, the Z button is mapped to like ZL. So your left trigger, but I don't know, it's just weird with the bumpers and the trigger button, right? Like the way they've mapped the bumpers and the trigger buttons.
You're having one index finger on R and one index finger on ZL, and so it feels
for
very
a lot
unnatural.
Of games,
Yeah.
And that's
the main problem though is too like the N64 controller, which I spend a good amount of money on for this wireless N64 controller. You can't remap on the Switch at a system level.
Oh.
So like if you want to play other games with that, you can't because it doesn't map normally to a regular controller. You know what I mean?
As we learned when we played Smash together.
Yeah, I tried to play Smash online with an N64 controller.
Oh no.
Massive misfire. Even, I mean, you can do it. That's actually a game because you can remap within Smash to whatever you want. So, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But yeah, I think, yeah. It's the way they've decided to do it is odd. It's not terrible, but they should just allow remapping. That should be a system-wide feature.
Well, I think we should wrap up. So I'm sure everybody probably has other thoughts, and we could probably talk about a lot of this a lot more. But for me, my closing thought would be just like I wish that Nintendo would listen to everybody about just general quality of life online stuff. And I think if that were fixed, the secrecy would probably be okay. And, you know, if we could party up in these games, if you could have mostly lag-free matches and things, you know, I think a lot of this would be less of an issue. And that's where I hope that they start to really pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Number one request will always be party system.
Yeah, or themes.
Yeah. I want shoes background on my Nintendo Switch Online.
I just want themes.
Yeah. I want a party system and voice chat.
Anything else before we move on?
Bring back PictoChat, you cowards. No, but I mean, we all have the expansion pack, right? Everybody on this.
Yes, of course we do. We're huge cucks, even though we're complaining about being cucks.
Yeah. But I mean, like, are we all having a good time with it? Like
I'm having a blast.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, of course.
Like, and I think that most of the people that are actually playing it are doing the same. I mean, I'm even seeing a lot of like people on YouTube, like kind of going back on their initial being like, this whole thing is a fucking bust. Cause now they're like, well, actually I played with some friends and it was really fun. It was like, well, yeah, if you just look at the minutia of like the worst possible parts of it and you make videos on it, then yeah, that's all you're going to see, you know? But if you look at the whole thing, you know, like at the end of the day, it's a pretty good value considering how much they were charging for each individual game on a virtual console. I wish there was a bigger library. I wish they dropped all this shit at once instead of doling it out in little drips, right? But it's like, I'm having a good time. I definitely feel like I didn't waste any money getting this thing.
Yeah. Would I pay $15 or $20 for Mario Kart 64 with online components? Probably.
Yeah. I think I haven't actually dug that much into the new consoles, but I'm very much looking forward to the DLC in Animal Crossing. Like, that's worth the cost right there for me. Like, I was gonna pay that roughly that much to have it and to have my wife have access to it. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. Cool.
Look, if they don't add Wii U games to this $30 tier, then it's just not going to be worth it, man. I need Game Pass added to NSO for free, or it's not worth it.
No, I want Winback 2 Project Poseidon for the Xbox. Bring Winback 2.
All right, we're gonna move on then. We're gonna take we're gonna take a short break and come back and talk about the games we've been playing recently. I beat Metroid Dread. I actually finished it up today. Super fun experience. I think I ended up somewhere around 65% completion. I don't know that I'm gonna I don't enjoy the shine spark in that game. That's I don't.
To be honest, I never figured it out.
Yeah, that's
I
how
can't
I
figure
feel
out how
too.
to trigger it in the air. I don't know how to do it.
There are certain aspects of it that I also like. I would try every puzzle I came across, and then I would give up after a few attempts, because I think they didn't really teach you it. They didn't make you have to learn it, and so
right.
I think that's maybe one, arguably a flaw, that they should have made me get better at it to like fight a boss or something, and then I might have gone back. But overall, amazing game. Really enjoyed it. Yeah,
Game of the year?
So far for me, probably.
Yeah. That's very good.
Of what I've played, I'd have to think about that for a minute, but yeah. And then I don't know. I've been playing more Pikmin 3. Playing a lot of Smash. Played some Smash on your stream, David. That was a lot of fun. Just randomly that night, I was kind of just dominating. That was a lot of fun for me.
Oh yeah.
We haven't played one in a long time, Patrick.
Let's do it. I think I was in particular on fire that night. On top of just I play a lot, but I was really in the zone right then.
I couldn't get more than one stock against you.
Yeah. Your plant makes me want to just jump off a fucking bridge. Yeah.
But yeah, so I played a lot of Smash. Just done. Yeah.
We just want to jump off Elden Bridge. Bridge of Elden.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else right now.
Very good. Matt, what about you, man?
I too have been playing a lot of Smash. I've been playing online. I got up to Elite Smash with Palutena, and I've been playing a lot of Bowser Jr. and really wrecking a lot of Soras, which brings me a lot of joy.
Everywhere. Yeah,
so many Soras. It's like there's a lot of Soras. Yeah, it's Smash is great.
And a Mega Man, and then a Mega Man.
Yeah,
Sora, Mega Man.
Yeah, Rosalina and Luma. I fought one today, and I was like, "Who places Rosalina and Luma?"
I love it when that's what's so great about that game is every once in a while you're like, "Oh shit, how does Robin? What do I do?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you gotta freak out. Yeah, I understand how people play Sora because everyone plays, and he's got a very specific meta. And that's what's so fun about getting back into Smash is that it sucks you in. You learn that game of chess and checkers, and rock paper scissors, and figure out how to beat people. It's fun. I've been playing nothing but Smash mostly.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I played a little bit of Smash. Like I said, I went into the Discord when I was doing a stream, and Patrick was like, I wasn't planning on streaming Smash, but then Patrick was like, I have an arena going. I was like, hey, this could be fun. I'll jump into Patrick's thing. And I was trying to use Tetris. I was trying to use the N64 controller over here as a Tetris 99 controller because in theory it works well. Unfortunately, this D-pad suffers the same up input problem that the Pro controller has. Yeah, there were a couple false hard drops that I did on Tetris 99. So unfortunately, this is not my new Tetris 99 controller, but I've got a good controller for that, so it's fine. But I did try to play Smash with this thing, and it went about as well as you would think. Everybody in the Discord was like, oh, look at this guy. He's bragging. And then I just like fucking shat on my face for like 2 rounds in a row. And I was like, folks, this is why I don't stream Smash ever.
Was it hard to find a N64 controller? I didn't even try to get one, so I didn't know.
I got them the day they went up. Like, it's like I was in that first batch of orders. I just kind of jumped on it real quick. And as soon as I saw somebody be like, they're up, I was like, fuck it. I'm not waiting. I'm not even going to like think like, do I want to get this? Because I just know it's going to sell out immediately. It sold out like seconds after I got mine. So it's like,
Nice.
I definitely was like, yeah, I think this was the right decision. And it is fun to play some games like Sin and Punishment on this thing. Sin and Punishment uses a really weird control scheme where you hold the left side like this and then hold the middle with your right hand, right? So instead of this, like with most games, you play like this and aim with your right thumb. It's really odd, but it's cool because up until this point now, we've never been able to play Sin and Punishment with an N64 controller in the West. It's always been through emulation or whatever that it's been released here. So it's kind of cool to do that. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I did play the Tetris 99 Maximus Cup, which was Metroid Dread themed, which was cool. It's weird playing Tetris to Metroid music, but it's also kind of great, very dramatic. And then, yeah, other than that, we talked about Mario Party Superstars earlier. I'm very much enjoying that game. I want to play more of that game online with just randoms because that's something you can do in that game. It's like play with anyone and it just match mix for you, which is kind of cool. So I'm excited to do that. And then, like I said, I've been playing a lot of Picross. I actually like finished Picross S1 for the Switch. I like 100%ed it, as it were. I like went in and I finally finished the last few like mega Picross puzzles that I hadn't finished, just so I could say that I actually beat that thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going through and playing N64 games right now. Dr. Mario 64, like I said, Sin and Punishment. If you guys have not played this, like I really recommend it. It's a very unique, interesting shooter. Unlike anything I've ever really played before, and unlike any other kind of shooter. So yeah, very much enjoy it. And that's what I've been playing. DCD, what about you, man? What have you been playing this week?
I finally finished up Crosscode. That's a game I like kept starting and getting exhausted by and coming back. I love the game to death. But man, like those dungeons, they take like 2.5 hours. and it's
They
like
break
puzzle.
your brain.
Yeah, it's like puzzle after puzzle after puzzle after puzzle. So it's like, after doing 3 or 4 dungeons, I took a break, but I ended up finishing it. It's an awesome game. Like I recommend it to anybody who just likes any sort of Zelda game or even has JRPG elements to it too. It's really fun and a cool story too.
That story hit me emotionally more than I was expecting it to, and also like the twists I did not see coming at all.
Yeah, the last couple of chapters, you really feel for the main character there.
Yeah.
And then I played this indie game called Trigger Witch. That was actually recommended in your Discord by Donnie. So that was a cool game. It was like took me like 8 hours to beat. And you're a witch with a gun.
There's the name. Yeah.
Yeah. You just run around this map. It's kind of like a Crosscode light. And that was pretty cool. And then aside from that, I've just been playing so much N64 online. Like I've been playing Mario Tennis with friends, and then and Mario Kart with friends, and then I've been playing Ocarina of Time, which I used to think was really overrated, and now that I'm playing it again, I'm like, this is very appropriately rated.
Yeah.
This game is
a masterpiece. Yeah,
so much fun. Like I'm having so much fun playing this game again. So I'm happy we're able to play it again.
Yeah, quick shout out to Donnie again as well, by the way, and everybody who was in my stream the other day. Had Baby's first hype train on stream the other day. That was fucking cool. It was just like 4 or 5 subs in a row and like all these bits thrown my way and everything. It was like, it's kind of overwhelmed with the love there on that stream. So thanks everybody who's been tuning in on those. And I know Donnie's been gifting subs on my channel like a just like a fucking what's the guy from Annie, Daddy Warbucks. He's just been throwing them out to the whole Switch Headz community. So very appreciative for that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
All right, well then I think that does it for this week's episode. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, DCD, for coming and joining us. We appreciate having you on.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's so much fun every time.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co for our website. Thanks to Corduroy for our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick online, I am PDYX.
Hey, I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Daniel? Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at DCDM99.
There you go. One-stop shop for the DCD store. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter. We are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. Remember, that's a Z at the end of that thing, not an S. And if you'd like to join our Discord or Facebook group, both of those are great communities. We'd love to have you. We've been getting a lot of activity in that Discord recently in a very good way. Lots of new people joining. Lots of people being like, oh my God, I've been listening to you guys forever and I just joined. Welcome. Please join. If you haven't joined yet, that's great. And hey, no pressure, but it's a great community. We'd love to have you in there as well. But that's going to do it for our show on the Nintendo Switch Online, what we think could be done better. We're going to have a great episode for you guys next week. We might even have a special episode coming up, so be tuned for that. But otherwise, we love you guys. Be safe out there. Do the best you can. Live your life as a good American or whatever the fuck country you live in. And we'll see you guys next week. We love you very much. Bye-bye.